Question. Dear Kim, there seems to be a belief in culture religion that marriage and subsequently parenthood is the only path to a happy, productive life, implying that there must be something fundamentally wrong with those who are single. Either something is greatly wrong with their mental and emotional health, or they are selfish, shallow, or self-absorbed for not wanting kids, or just flat out weird. I would like to know what your take on this is. Well, yes, you're right that in most cultures there is this very strong pressure. And it starts, it starts in kindergarten. You almost get it in with a mother's milk that you are a biological animal and part of your purpose of life is to reproduce. So we can carry on the species, the species can survive. I don't think it's just the culture of religion that does this. I think there are some biological urges as well, because it is part of the survival mechanism of a species that it has to reproduce. So I think it goes beyond this, but of course the cultural overlay and the religious overlay comes on top of that. And so I think it's probably more a pressure on women, especially in religious cultures, because most of the religions we see, they're based on a specific view that women are less important than men, and that the main purpose of being a woman is to become a mother. So I think that's much stronger on women in a religious context, but also, of course, in some cultural context. But again, can you really separate, for example, if you talk about, well, my wife is from Poland, and there's a strong pressure there because Poland is a Catholic country. And in the Catholic religion, there is this very specific view of women. So can you really separate the culture from the religion in that case? So anyway, my view, of course, is that this is my view is we're spiritual beings. We're not biological beings. We're not cultural beings. We're not religious beings. All of these outer things, even the biology, because the biology is just our physical bodies. The culture is just our emotional, mental, and identity bodies. So is the religion. And as I've explained many, many times, we are spiritual beings. In order to take embodiment on earth, we have to create contents in our minds. And our minds have these 4 levels: the identity, mental, emotional, and physical. And so we have over many lifetimes created contents in these minds that make up our outer personality. And in these layers of the mind, we can have what I call these subconscious selves. And so you can have built this over many lifetimes. Because look back at how many cultures have had this pressure on you. So you can have built these subconscious selves that are telling you you should reproduce, and if you don't, there's something wrong with you, you're weird, and this and that. And of course, there's also be the social pressure from the other people, the collective consciousness. So, but beyond that, we are spiritual beings. As I said, the core of our identity is really the conscious you, which can step outside of the outer personality and connect to your I am presence and realize why you're here. So I have also in several videos talked about, before we came into this lifetime, we met with our spiritual teachers and we formulated a life plan for what we want to accomplish in this lifetime. And part of it is we want to grow, we want to overcome certain elements of our psychology, and other is we want to bring a gift to the world. And there are certainly people, as part of their life plan, to become married and have children. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there are also people who, as in their life plan, it's not there to have children because they have other things they want to do. They might want to focus on their own growth, or they might want to focus on bringing some kind of gift. And obviously we all know that having children takes an enormous amount of time and effort, so it can take your attention away from. Now, I'm not here saying that it's an ideal for spiritual people to be single. This is what you see going back in history, that you're supposed to withdraw from the world and live in a monastery. What I've said several times is that in the Aquarian age, the ideal for spiritual people is to actually express our spirituality in everyday life. And that means engaging in life. And it can mean having children, but it doesn't have to be. So for me as a spiritual person, right, there is absolutely no pressure on you that you should have children, that either something is greatly wrong with you, your mental and emotional health, or you are selfish, shallow, or self-absorbed for not wanting kids. There is absolutely no pressure like that from me or from the Ascended Masters. It's all a matter of your individual life plan. So what you want to do is you want to make an effort to tune in intuitively to your divine plan. And in order to do this, you really have to free yourself from this projection at you that you should have children. And that means looking at these subconscious selves. And if you can make the effort, and I've talked about how to do this in several videos, one of my breakthrough videos talk about subconscious selves. If you can really let go of these selves that are pressuring you to have children, then you can have a more neutral intuition about your life plan, and you may see that it's not part of your life plan to have children. And then you should just be at peace with that and focus on what is it you really wanted to accomplish in this lifetime. And I know very well, as I've seen this again over the many years I've been on the spiritual path, that when people become awakened to the spiritual path, that there is a path we can follow to a higher state of consciousness, sometimes people become very, very focused on it. And oftentimes we tend to withdraw from the world for a while. We may go into some spiritual community, we may live a certain lifestyle, take some classes or whatever, and we are focusing on spiritual growth in a very intense way. And often we go through a phase where we do this for several years. And as a result of this, there may be people around us who will accuse us of being selfish, self-centered, self-absorbed, shallow, or just weird. But again, then you look at, first of all, you say, okay, they have a right to have their opinion. Why do I need to change it? But why do I need to live my life according to their opinion? So if I feel some kind of pressure because they're accusing me, I look at myself again and say, do I have a subconscious self that is reacting to these people? And why do I feel that I have to live my life according to other people's opinions? That's the subconscious self, or several. And so you go after that, you look at that until you come to a point where you say, hey, I know who I am, I have a clear sense what my divine plan is, it does not involve children, and I'm totally at peace with that. If other people are not at peace with it, fine, no problem. But then I just have to leave these people behind, or be non-attached to it, have a relationship where we don't talk about kids. So, as I'm saying, you do not want with the outer mind to decide, I am going to have children, or I am not going to have children. You want to make an effort to look at what kind of pressure do you have in your mind or from the outside, and how do you react to this pressure? Does that show that you have some unresolved psychology? Then you go after that. Because when you go after the psychology and resolve it, you can be neutral, and then you can have a good intuition. Is it in my divine plan to have children or not? Obviously, if it is in your divine plan, you don't want to make some decision with the outer mind based maybe on some spiritual ideal. Oh, I'm not going to have children. That would abort an important part of your divine plan. But on the other hand, you don't want to force yourself to have children, and now you're tied to having children for however many years that takes. And you might miss important aspects of your divine plan as a result of that. But I will also say that I think that many spiritual people it's not an all or nothing, it's not either or, it's not black or white. I mean, I got married when I was 19, and I had 2 children with my first wife, and I had another child with my second wife, and so I still have managed to discover what my divine plan is, and I think having children was part of my divine plan. And, you know, what I will also say here, what comes to me, is that when I look at myself, I'm not trying to tell everybody that this applies to everybody, but when I look at myself, I see that part of my spiritual growth, part of my psychological, my resolution of psychology, was that I had to overcome this very strong focus on myself. Because when I look back at my life, I can see that I have probably been in some spiritual community, whether a monastery or some other spiritual community, for several lifetimes, where I didn't have any worldly concerns. I could just focus on whatever I saw as the means to spiritual growth. And I think in this lifetime I had to overcome that focus on self. And it was quite strong. I mean, I could easily live as a hermit. I didn't have to get married and have children. I could have lived alone. I'm not saying I would have been happy, but I could have done it. So I think that having children, is a very good way to pull you out of this focus on self, because all of a sudden there are now children, they're dirty diapers that have to be changed. They don't change themselves. So it helped me get over this focus on self. Now, my children might look at this differently and say, but Dad, you haven't overcome the focus on self. But, did you know me when you were a baby? You don't know how focused on self I was back then. So anyway, I'm just saying, it is very possible. It's not an all or nothing that in order to fulfill your divine plan, you either have to have children or not have children. You can very well fulfill your divine plan, even your spiritual goals of your divine plan, by having children. It's just part of life. So basically what I'm trying to say here is, this is a completely individual matter. And you can't let anybody tell you what you should or shouldn't do. You can't decide with the outer mind what you should or shouldn't do. You have to really make the effort to tune in intuitively to your divine plan. Now, in some cases, having children, it sort of just takes care of itself, because all of a sudden, there's a child popping up, but then I would assume, if that happens to you, that it is part of your divine plan, and that's why it happened. That's, at least to me, the most constructive way to look at it. And really, I think, I was, for example, I was a member of the Transcendental Meditation movement. That was my first spiritual movement. That was not very focused on children. Most of the people there were young and didn't have children. Then I was a member of an organization called the Summit Lighthouse, which was very focused on children. They had a very elaborate school system from kindergarten and up to high school, and they were very focused on new ways of bringing up children, new ways of educating children. So what I'm saying is, it can very well be that having children, educating children, is part of your divine plan. And then, of course, it's necessary for you to have the children yourself, because, as I learned at a certain point, nothing is more funny than hearing people who don't have children themselves talk about how to bring up children. Get your feet wet before you tell other people how to bring up children. So, I'm just saying that, I'm rambling here, but anyway, I've seen many spiritual people where bringing forth new ways of educating children, bringing up children, is very much part of their divine plan. And then, obviously, you want to tune into that intuitively. You don't want to decide with the outer mind, oh, I'm so spiritual, I shouldn't have children.